How funny is that? You guys can laugh, by the way. You're allowed to laugh.
I'm not laughing.
Yeah, I got pushed stolen, so I can't. That's my laugh.
Haha.
All right.
That's
So
funny.
this is the second last boss, and this is definitely like you can tell this is the second last one. This guy has a fucking shit ton of things going on. I've called it a monstrous encounter. That's interesting, but it has two repeating phases, and then there's a final burn at the end. So in phase 1, we fight Kelthuzad in Lich form, which is he looks like this. And every time he's killed, he opens a phylactery where like a group of people go into and they fight a ghost version called the Remnant, and the rest deal with minions on the outside during that. And then the ghost has his own health bar, and you kill him you damage him 3 times. So the first time you take his health from 100 to 66, then 66 to 33, then 33 to dead. And when the inside remnant is dead, he shatters the phylactery, and then Kelthuzad can actually be killed. It's kind of like Rastakhan, if you guys remember that from Desire Law, where you would like send half your raid into like a separate phase where they couldn't be healed or whatever by the other people. And yeah, this is a pretty complex fight, but let's go over it. And yeah, just enjoy the marvel of this spaghetti meatball saying minion. Alright, so phase 1 has a lot of mechanics, but once I've explained it, we've already seen like 40% of the fight. So before we start, note that each time the phylactery version of KT is pushed down a 33%, the Lich version of him revives outside at 100%, and with a stack of Necrotic Surge, which increases his damage done by 5%, and increases the number of spikes and Oblivion's Echoes he spawns by 1 every time. So by the end of the third phase 1, he's dealing 50% more damage, and spawning 5 spikes as opposed to 2. I don't know exactly how many Echoes it'll spawn each time, but it'll be 3 compared to what it was in the first phase 1. So his first mechanic we'll look at is Dark Evocation, and this basically just revives all the devoted ads that have died so far in the fight, I think, or maybe it's a percentage of them. But importantly, it revives all dead players as enemies, which you need to like interrupt, CC, and kill. Basically, it's easy at the start, but it could get a lot harder at the end if you have a few people die. So the first mechanic then is Oblivion's Echo, which will mark a few random players. Remember, it gets +1 per each time you enter phase 1, with like a 10-yard green circle that silences everything, including enemies, apart from like the boss, of course. Within, when it's placed, 6 seconds after they are placed, 1 per circle Frostbound Devoted ad will spawn, and these ads will just fixate someone, and if they are allowed to get to the person they're fixating, they explode within 5 yards or something like that. So you have sort of 2 ways to use these circles. One is stack them up, which means the ads will all spawn in the same place and can be easily CC'd and killed. Or you can drop them on the tank ads, which I'll explain in a sec. But this means that the ads will be spread out and coming from all different sorts of directions, so a bit harder to kill. Which at first it's probably easier to do it this way, but as you go on through the phases, this will definitely get harder. So the tank mechanic is Soul Fracture. This will shatter the current tank's soul into 3. I don't think this ever changes, but it looks like it should always be 3 shards. Maybe it's 4 on Mythic. But basically these 3 things spread out around the room, and they chain cast like raid damage, which can be interrupted or silenced with the circles that I just described, the Oblivion's Echoes. And once they're killed, the tanks can move over their body and pick up the soul shards to remove this horrible debuff, which makes them take a shitload of damage, basically, or increase damage from something. So, like I said, you either use like 3 of the circles to place them on the ads to make them not cast, to make that easier, or you can stack the circles up to make the ads easier. From watching Max and watching other people's videos, I reckon that the easiest way to deal with this is stack the circles up and then just have people interrupt and range hard swap. In fact, everyone can hard swap the tank ads whenever they're up and just keep them interrupted and kill them. But it depends on if there's like 5 soul shards or whatever, it's easier to use the circles, but I'm pretty sure we'll always want to stack the circles up and just blast the little ads. So the other mechanic is Glacial Wrath spawns at first 2 spikes called Glacial Spikes under marked players. It works the same as the traps from Painsmith. Like a triangle will go over your head and then eventually one will spawn under you after a few seconds so you can control where they are. When the spikes die, they blow up and leave a stacking dart on all players. This is like bursting. But they also lose 5% of their health every 2 seconds, so you can't leave them up forever. Do you remember those like sparks on the High Court or whatever it was called in the 6th boss in Eternal Palace, where you had to like kill 1 spark and then wait for the debuff to fall off? It's basically that mechanic, but with a dot instead of a big debuff. And you basically have to blow them up in a controlled way, most likely killing 2 at a time and just having a raid CD every time you do it. So in the first phase 1, you'll be dealing with 2, so you can just instantly blow them up every time, then 3, then 4, and during the third phase 1, you'll have 5 spikes spawning, so you'll have to do like nuke 2 really fast, then nuke the second 2, then do a third one, or maybe the tuning allows you to do 3, I don't know. Max suggested though that it should be possible to only get 1 set of spikes per phase 1, even during week 1. So I'm thinking this is not as scary as it seems if you only have to deal with 1 set each phase. However, if you start having to do like, I don't know, 2 sets of 5 spikes in one phase 1, you are going to have a fucking bad time. Then other than that, there's 2 mechanics that he does in phase 1. One is Frost Blast, which is basically the same like a meteor that you have to raid soak. And anyone who's soaked gets a 12-second root on them, but it's dispellable. So you probably don't want the whole raid to soak it. You probably just want as many people as you have mass dispels and single dispels to get in there, because you don't really want to be rooted for 12 seconds. Don't know. It can be immune as well, like a solo immune it. And then the final mechanic is when his mana goes to 0, he does Howling Blizzard, which basically puts like some ice patches on the floor, and they grow until there's like a few safe spots, and you just have to find the safe spots. This mechanic can also introduce some SLG bullshit, but that is likely only a problem on Mythic. So the overall strategy, and you'll see my epic pick here in a sec, is, oh yeah, and this as well, interrupting and killing the tank ads. Ranged and melee can both do this. Spawn the glacial spikes strategically, so you see in the picture here, I've spawned 2 underboss to blow up instantly, 2 far away, and 1 sort of in the middle. Try and keep them spawned in 2s if possible, just to make them very easy to control, and you just limit your cleave on them as much as you can. And then, because they lose 5% of the health every few seconds, then you stack up the Oblivion's Echo. We could have like a skull marker for that. And then when the devoted ads spawn from them, you just stun them and cleave them. And this is what I wrote, unironically. You move away if fixated, and take the DPS meter L if melee.
Is this fight melee favored?
That sounds bad, but I'm pretty sure this fight is going to be pretty good for melee, and I'll explain why in a sec.
Nice.
But then you just stack up the Frost Blast, fucking can't speak, or you solo immune it if the situation calls for it. And then if he does Dark Evocation, just go sicko mode on any ads that spawn and find the safe spots. And basically this picture just shows, here's the 3 tank ads, they just get interrupted by ranged or melee. You always put the silent circles in the same place to stack the ads up. Then just deal with the spikes properly, making sure we have cooldowns ready for them. Soak the Frost Blast, and find the safe spots when needed. Alright, and so when he gets to 0%, so I'm not going to explain phase 1 again, basically. Just the only thing that changes from in the second phase 1 is you get 3 spikes. Third phase 1, you get I think my math's off, I don't fucking know, but there's some spikes. Or it might only be 4 spikes actually in the end of the fight, thinking about it. I don't know. You get the picture though, he just does more damage as the phase goes on, and you just need a bit more control. So when you've gotten to 0%, he'll go to the middle and open his phylactery.